Have you ever wondered, why does she daydream about the man who doesn't reply to her messages? Why are the men who are always there, always kind, always available, labeled as boring, while the cold, unpredictable man keeps her awake at night? It's not a coincidence. It's instinct. Women aren't obsessed with the man they can control. They're only obsessed with the one they can't. And if you're that kind of man, you no longer need to chase anyone. In this video, I'll take you deep into the 6 psychological reasons why women go crazy for the man they can't control. This truth will change the way you see love, forever. Part 1. The feeling of lack of control creates intense emotions. Imagine this. A girl texts you, and you don't reply right away. Not because you're playing games, but because you're busy with your real life, work, passions, training, investing, reading, leveling up. Hours later, you check your phone. 3 messages from her. 1 is casual, "Hey, where you at?" 1 is pouty, "Too busy to even check my texts." And the last one, "Never mind. It's nothing." Sound familiar? If you're a seasoned man, you've seen this before. It's not rare, because the moment you don't respond instantly, you've put her in a rare state in today's world: uncertainty. Women, biologically, hate the feeling of not being in control. But paradoxically, that very feeling is the most addictive emotional trigger for them. When they don't know what you're thinking, whether you're paying attention, or what you're caught up in, their brain starts scripting its own story. Every action of yours becomes a question. Every message you send becomes a clue. And she starts decoding you. That decoding process sparks emotions. And emotions, when unresolved, turn into obsession. The truth is, the man women can predict is the man they forget most easily. The man they can't fully figure out is the man they can't stop thinking about. She won't say it out loud. She won't call it obsession. She'll just say, "I don't know why, but he makes me feel different." And that different feeling? That's the language of dopamine. Part 2. Value increases when you're hard to reach. Humans have a strange trait: the less attainable something is, the more they crave it. Not because it's better, but because our minds are wired to equate scarcity with value. A classic in behavioral psychology: the cookie jar experiment. 1 jar full of cookies, another with just 2. Participants tasted cookies from both jars. The result: most rated the cookies from the nearly empty jar as tastier, more desirable, though they were identical. Why? Because the human mind associates rarity with higher value. Women are no different. Applied to male-female dynamics, the man who's always present, always ready, always responding instantly, gradually becomes the cookie in the full jar. At first, she's pleased, you're attentive. But over time, she subconsciously lowers your value. Why? Because you pose no challenge. There's nothing for her to work for. You're just there, so she stops cherishing you. Now, what about the hard-to-reach man? He doesn't text much, because he's busy training, working, growing. He doesn't reply instantly, not to play games, but because his life matters more than anyone's approval or control. And just like that, in her eyes, you're different. You're not easily accessible. You don't give her instant comfort. And because of that, you become more desirable. Your value isn't in your words. It's in how you allocate your time. If you prioritize texting her over your gym session, work, meditation, or learning, you're telling her, "You're the center of my world." And that kills attraction. But if she has to wait in line for your response because you're pursuing something greater, you're saying, "I have my own world, and you only get in if you're worthy." Why do women react so strongly to this? Because they're not used to it. Beautiful, intelligent women have countless men ready to follow orders just to be near them. But when a man doesn't do that, it shakes them. And then they wonder, why isn't he chasing me like the others? Does he have someone else? Or am I not attractive enough? When these questions arise, you're living rent-free in her mind. That's where obsession begins. In short, don't always be available. Don't be the cookie in the full jar. Be the man she has to work to win, not through games, but through a genuinely busy life that prioritizes you. And when you do that, you don't just increase your value, you become the standard. Part 3, Women's Instinct to Conquer. There's something very few men realize. Women don't just want to be conquered, they also want to conquer a man. The difference? They do it in a subtle way. Why does this conquest instinct exist in women? Even the gentlest women have a need to affirm their allure. When a man is easily won over, they might enjoy it at first, but soon, they lose interest. On the other hand, a man who seems immune to their charm, or who doesn't need to have them, becomes a mission. The simple truth: if every man falls under her control, the man who doesn't becomes the final fortress. And women, especially those with strength and character, want to breach that fortress. Not necessarily for love right away, but because the challenge ignites their sense of self-worth. The harder it is, the more they try. Phenomenon. In psychology, there's a principle called cognitive dissonance. When a woman invests emotions in someone she hasn't won, she feels compelled to keep trying to justify the effort she's already put in. The harder it is to conquer you, the more mental energy she invests to prove, he'll notice me soon enough. And just like that, you become her heart's biggest project. Women love the game, if it's worth playing. Don't get it wrong. Women don't want to be ignored, disrespected, or treated as invisible. But they're drawn to a purposeful emotional game, where the man isn't easily swayed, doesn't react with emotional weakness, doesn't see her as the sole prize in his life. This activates their competitive instinct. They'll compare themselves to other women. They'll find ways to stand out. They'll even change themselves to meet your standards. Classic example: nice guy versus high value man. The nice guy is always available, always complimenting, always checking in. He offers comfort, but no emotional drive. In contrast, the hard-to-get man, who isn't easily charmed and sets clear boundaries, makes her feel like she's in a challenging game. When a woman has to work for your attention, she becomes obsessed. The conquest instinct ties to self-esteem. Women don't just want love, they want to feel special. If they're the only one who can reach you among countless other women, they crown themselves with an invisible tiara. They don't need anyone else to validate it. They just need to know, I got a man no one else could tame to notice me. To a woman, that's a victory sweeter than any gift you could give. In short, when you're too easily won, you're a challenge already solved. But when you're grounded, principled, and not swayed by emotions, you become an irresistible challenge. Women don't just want to be loved, they want the thrill of conquering something no one else could. And if you are that something, they won't stop until they win. Part 4, Uncertainty stimulates the brain. There's a fascinating psychological phenomenon called the unpredictable reward effect. It triggers the brain to release dopamine, the addictive chemical. Do you know what makes people addicted to slot machines? It's not the money, it's the uncertainty. You might win, or you might not. That very possibility keeps people playing endlessly. The clear connection: if you always text back on time, call like clockwork, you become a vending machine. Predictable, reliable, boring. But if you respond on your own rhythm, act in ways she can't predict, you become an emotional slot machine. Women hate admitting this, but they're hooked on emotions they can't control. And you, the man who doesn't follow a script, who can't be easily led, you're the one they get addicted to. Part 5, The man who sets boundaries earns respect. Attraction is one thing, but earning a woman's respect, that's a different league. And you'll never achieve it if you don't know how to set boundaries. Why are boundaries attractive? In any relationship, the person who can say no holds the real power. Not manipulative, coercive power, but the power that comes from inner self-control. When a man knows what he will and won't accept, and expresses it calmly, he becomes a force to be respected. Conversely, the man who always nods, always tries to please, always avoids emotional conflict, will, sooner or later, be seen as weak. Women test boundaries, not out of malice, but instinct. Women test you, not to hurt you. They test to see if you're solid. They need to know if you're strong enough to stand firm when challenged, or if you'll crumble just to keep them. It might be a sarcastic remark, a subtle act of disrespect, an unreasonable demand. All are signals. Are you strong enough to lead me, or will I have to lead you? If you don't push back, if you don't set boundaries, they lose trust. Then attraction. Real-world example, she says, "Why don't you text me every morning like other guys do?" You have two choices. 1. Fear losing her, apologize. Promise to do better, you've just sold your principles cheap. 2. Calmly respond, "I don't do that on a schedule, but when I think of you, I'll text. I'm not the kind of guy who does things just to be accepted." Guess which response earns her respect? Who is the man who knows his boundaries? He doesn't lower his standards to keep a relationship. He doesn't let emotions dictate his actions. He doesn't stay silent out of fear of loss. He understands, being needed isn't love. Always agreeing isn't care. And no one defines his worth except himself. The always available man equals the easily disrespected man. Women, though they won't say it, admire a man they can't easily sway. They'll never admit it openly, but deep down, they know, if he can't hold his ground with me, he won't hold it when the world comes crashing down. That's why men with principles, who say no at the right time, are remembered forever, even after a breakup. In short, women may like being pampered, but they're truly drawn to strength with boundaries. Not stubbornness, but soft power, quiet, yet clear. Remember, a man without boundaries will have them crossed. A man who sets boundaries will be respected, and, in the long run, loved more deeply. Part 7. Uncontrollable equals silent admiration. If you've ever made a woman obsess over you, chances are it's because she couldn't control you. Not because you were cold, not because you played games, but because you were too grounded, too self-possessed, and didn't rely on her approval. A rare archetype, the man who can't be controlled, and doesn't need to control others. Most men fall into one of two extremes: trying to control a woman's emotions, letting a woman completely control their emotions. But the truly free man, he neither manipulates nor lets himself be manipulated. He knows who he is, what matters, who deserves to walk beside him. He doesn't need to declare, "I'm alpha." His mere presence forces the world to adjust to his energy. Women and their unconscious admiration. Women may be attracted to many types of men, but they only truly admire the one they can't control, because their deepest instinct whispers, "If I can't sway him, he's surely capable of moving the world." And in their eyes, that's a man worth following. Admiration equals the foundation of lasting love. Many think women love sweetness, attentiveness, or chivalry, but in reality, women stay devoted to the man they silently respect. They need to feel, you're emotionally stronger than they are. You don't react impulsively to jealousy. You don't lose your way over a cold glance. You don't bend your values because they're upset. When you hold your identity steady amidst emotional pressure, they don't just like you, they look up to you. The emotionally unshakable man is unforgettable. He may not be the most handsome, the richest, the sweetest, but he's the one who doesn't try to prove anything, doesn't seek to please to be loved, doesn't waver over looks, tears, or her walking away. That stability is the cornerstone of masculine power. It's what makes women obsess, not over sex, not over wealth, but because he's something they can't reach with their usual tactics. You don't need to be cruel, you need to be unyielding. An uncontrollable man isn't heartless. He has a heart, but it's not for rent by someone else's emotions. He knows how to listen, how to love, but he never loses his inner axis. And women, highly sensitive and intuitive, sense this more keenly than anyone. Once they do, they'll never forget you. In short, attraction doesn't come from making her happy, it comes from being a stable system she can't manipulate. Admiration doesn't stem from words, it comes from the unyielding inner strength she can't shake. When you become that man, she won't need a logical reason to think of you, because you'll be a feeling she's never had before, one no one else can replicate. Part 7. The Philosophy of Masculine Freedom. After everything you've read, One thing is clear. Women aren't just drawn to looks, not just to sweet words or gallant gestures. They're drawn to, and obsessed with, your inner state. There's a type of man women never forget, the one who lives by his principles, unbound by others' emotions. He's not overly sweet, but always authentic, not rushed, but crystal clear. He doesn't control anyone, yet never lets anyone control him. He enters a room, without saying a word, and people feel the energy of freedom radiating from him. Freedom isn't doing whatever you want. Freedom is choosing without being led by emotions. He doesn't need anyone to approve of his lifestyle, doesn't need validation for his worth, and doesn't twist himself to fit society's mold. To women, this isn't just attractive, it makes them feel small in the presence of his quiet greatness. And deep in their souls, they want to step into that world, not to control it, but to dissolve into it. The unshakable man is the one women willingly follow. No force needed, no reasons required, no conditions demanded. Just be you, steadfast, unapologetic, without asking permission. In a world where everyone tries to impress, you're the one who doesn't try, yet leaves an indelible mark. What women feel most deeply isn't your words, it's your values. When you say no to what you don't believe in, when you refuse to accept disrespect, even from the most beautiful woman, when you pause to focus on your goals, even if she's upset, you become an icon of something untouchable, yet endlessly worth chasing. Live like a mountain, unmoved by the wind, and you'll see, the winds will come to you, swirl around you, and stay, not because you chased them, but because you stood still. Don't be the reactor. Be the one who sets the atmosphere. Don't ask, what does she like about me? Be the man who makes her wonder, how do I fit into his world? When you're truly free, you won't need to try to be loved, because women won't stop thinking about you. Not because you're handsome, not because you're cold, but because you don't belong to them, and you don't need them to exist. In short, the entire reason women obsess over men they can't control boils down to one question: can you control yourself? Because a man who can't control himself will always be controlled. But a man who masters himself, his soul is untouchable. Become that man, not to prove anything to women, but to become someone you respect every time you look in the mirror. If you've made it through this video, one thing is certain: you're no longer a man stumbling blindly in the game of emotions. You're awake. What did you used to do? Maybe you chased a woman, texted her every morning, worried when she didn't reply, changed your behavior, emotions, or words, just to keep her around. But what happened? You were seen as predictable. You were labeled too nice, too boring. You were replaced by someone who didn't do much, but wasn't easily controlled. And you wondered, what did I do wrong? It's not that you weren't good enough. You were just too easy to control. Women, like all humans, aren't drawn to what's easy. They're captivated by mystery, strength, and inner power. If you live without boundaries, without principles, without resilience, you become a temporary piece in their puzzle. But if you start living as a man who can't be manipulated, everything changes. From today, choose to be the man women can't control. Not through mind games, not through fake coldness, but by knowing what you believe in, setting clear boundaries, prioritizing your career, health, and mission over being accepted. Not texting unless you're genuinely inspired to. Not reacting to others' emotions, but responding from your inner values. You don't need to do more. You just need to be stronger. And when you do this, you'll see, those who once overlooked you come back. Those who once chose you now fear losing you. And the woman who's truly worthy will realize you're the one she can't control, but always wants to be near. The entire message of this video summed up: women are only truly obsessed with the man they can't control, not because he plays games, but because he's too steady to let others' emotions dictate his life. He is his own world, and if she wants to be in that world, She has to learn to fit in. You don't lower your standards to be loved. She has to rise to earn you. If this video has awakened something in you, hit like and share it with a man who needs to hear these truths. And if you want to continue the journey to becoming an unstoppable man, subscribe now. Because you don't need to learn how to win women. You just need to learn how to never lose yourself. And that is what makes them unable to walk away from you.